Chase Jackson providing personal and professional vitality, lifestyles of the young and hungry. This video is on American boxing legend Jack Johnson. Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion, and he had to overcome all kinds of odds, adversity, racism, and poverty to become the legend that he was. How did he do this? Through his hunger and ambition and effort. Jack Johnson, American boxing legend, lifestyles of the young and hungry. Johnson was born in South Texas in the late 1800s, and both his parents were former slaves. Jack recognized that he had to find a way to get out, so he taught himself how to read and write. And he took all kinds of jobs in South Texas. The last of them being he worked on the docks. And while working on the docks, Jack would box other people for money. He would use his hunger and his skill and his ambition to find a way out of poverty, to find a way out of South Texas, to overcome racism. Jack Johnson, American legend. After honing his craft on the South Texas docks, Jack went national, and he would ride on freight cars around the country, fighting whoever was put in front of them. Boxing back then was crazy. It was not 12 rounds. It would go in between 20 and 45 rounds. And Johnson's style was similar to that of Floyd Mayweather's today, where he was very defensive and strategic in his approach against other boxers. Other boxers at the time would lead with their head so they could get their punches off, while Jack was very strategic with his craft and very defensive, and he could not get hit. Jack fought for over 30 years, and at the end of his career, when he was very old and still fighting, he did not have the mind or brain or facial scars of a boxer, because he did not get hit that often. So Jack wanted to get his opportunity to become the heavyweight champion, and the white establishment would not let him. And the person who was champion at the time was a man named Tommy Burns, and Johnson followed him around the globe for 2 years trying to get his opportunity to earn the belt. Finally, after 2 years of Johnson following him, Burns agreed to the fight after he received a large amount of money. I think $30,000 at the time, which translates to about $1.5 million today. Johnson only received 15% of that. But Johnson pummeled Burns and became the first black heavyweight champion. He followed Burns around the world for 2 years. Jack Johnson was hungry. Lifestyles of the young and hungry. Jack Johnson, American boxing legend. Jack Johnson, the legend. In the early 1900s, it was very rare for a black man to stand up against the white establishment for fear of death or lynching. Johnson was unflinching in his ability In the early 1900s, it was very rare for a black man to stand up against the white establishment for fear of prison or lynching. And Johnson was unwilling to stand down. He was a very proud man who was way beyond just a boxer. He was an inventor. He invented a wrench. He was a musician. He played the saxophone. Jack Johnson got after it. He is a person with ambition, with hunger. The white establishment tried to hold him down. His ambition showed through. Jack Johnson, legend. Johnson was sentenced to 1 year in prison for some kind of outrageous law for marrying a white woman or something of that sort in the 1920s. Johnson fled the country, went to Europe, where he continued to defend his title. When he decided to come back, he served his time, and when he got out, he continued to fight and win. Jack Johnson, hunger, ambition, lifestyles of the young and hungry. Jack Johnson is a great example of how we should not set limits on ourselves or not go by the limits which other people try to put upon us. The way the country was set up in its racial dynamic was for Johnson to stay a black laborer his entire life. And from a very young age, Johnson used his ambition and hunger to fight against that and overcome that. And he became a champion, he won, he set the bar, he became a leader, and he set his own limits. Chase Jackson providing personal and professional vitality, lifestyles of the young and hungry. Set your own limits.